first and foremost, we're going to start off with a very piece of interesting news that you may have heard about, and that's that Concacaf and UEFA are discussing a combined Nations League that would feature all 96 member nations. And if we're talking a timeline, when can we even expect something like this? Well, it would probably start in the fall of 2028 after the Euros. Simply no time before that. But a combined Nations League, guys, are you cool with it? CONCACAF and UEFA, I mean, for us from the CONCACAF region, it sounds pretty exciting. So, Kasey, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm really cool with it because I think it gives... I don't take a whole bunch of merit into Nations League, but it actually gives you matches against teams that the U.S. national team needs to be playing against in a match that means something. Does it mean everything? No, but it means something. How many friendlies have we lost out on of big matches because Europe's playing Europe in Nations League, CONCACAF's playing CONCACAF? I love the idea of giving teams those opportunities. And look, I think we even saw in this World Cup, European teams coming to CONCACAF to play isn't the dunk that it used to be.
No.
It's a different experience for them. It's a great experience for our players to be able to go to Europe, play a match that matters. And I think for the development, it's huge.
All right. I feel like we're burying the lead here. And it's such a loaded question when we talk about this UEFA and CONCACAF Nations League. They want to combat Gianni Infantino and what he's done with the Fast Forward initiative, with that program. He was trying to do a cash grab, 20% marketing arm, selling off the World Cup rights to private equity. And what do you do to combat Gianni Infantino's cash grab? You make your own cash grab. And here's this cash grab.
You see how it can benefit CONCACAF.
Well, here's the thing. You see this. You see this
benefit Europe as well.
Well, this is where I'm going to get to it. It's for everybody in this equation something that works. If you are UEFA, you're saying, hold on a second. We're coming off the most lucrative World Cup in the history of World Cups, the most lucrative sporting event in the history of sporting events on North American soil. When everybody said these stadiums would not sell out, when everybody said this is a bad idea, it won't happen, it won't be successful, it was more than financially successful, 10 times over. And now we're hearing murmurs of CONCACAF is against Gianni Infantino, except Mexico's not against Gianni Infantino, because all of a sudden there's a promise from Gianni Infantino to Mexico. I can probably get you to CONMEBOL. I can get you what you want. Well, why does Mexico, or why would Mexico want to go to CONMEBOL? Is it sporting? Okay, it's sporting. Let's say it's sporting. Is it more beneficial from a sporting landscape to play against Bolivia, to play against Venezuela, to play against Peru, Chile, to play against Colombia? And then I go up to the teams that matter, Brazil, Argentina, Uruguay, etc. Or would you rather play against the World Cup champions in Spain? Would you rather play against France? Would you rather play against a team like England, Portugal, Holland, etc.? This makes sense. And if you're CONCACAF, you are taking Gianni Infantino's carrot out of the equation and you're dangling something else. This is a win on all fronts for the teams involved here for what they want to do, which is take away Gianni Infantino out of the equation. It's one cash grab.
For another.
Substitute it for another.
Kasey, how much is it that, and how much is it actually trying to improve the level of football in our region?
There has to be both, because it has to financially make sense for everybody. But then it also has to be competitive. And I think the one good part about Nations League is when you get seeded into different groups, yes, there's promotion and relegation, so you can move up and play against better competition. But it isn't the case of then Spain playing against San Marino. It's Spain playing against a good nation, but then it's also, but if San Marino has a great 10-year run, then they're up playing against the teams that they would deserve to play against. So I like it from a competitive standpoint. I also like it from a financial standpoint, because I think the U.S. having an opportunity to host big teams, also the U.S. having the opportunity to go to Europe and play against big teams, I think it's a win-win across the board. Yes, is there a little bit of a let's stick it to FIFA? Yeah, I'm sure there's a little bit of that, but at the same time, I think everybody benefits both competitively and financially.
I'll believe it when I see it.
Well, there is that too.
I feel this is just a power play This is the powers that be that are against Gianni Infantino right now, trying to flex their muscle and saying, we don't need you. And you could be Gianni Infantino and say, all votes are equal. I will take my negotiating power and leverage to the Caribbean, to the smaller nations around the world, and see what I can do and get my votes. But if the biggest of confederations, your European confederations, your financial juggernauts in a CONCACAF, Asia are now against you, where does that leave you standing? And I think this is more posturing than anything from UEFA, from CONCACAF. This is them flexing their muscle here.
I hope not, because I love the concept. I like
the plan, the concept.
I don't think there's any way around it, Kasey, because if you're trying to tell me that it's going to be competitively balanced and you're going to have CONCACAF and UEFA actually traveling to each venue, you can't just focus on League A, which would be a U.S., Mexico, Canada, Panama. You can't just focus on those teams and then say, well, what about B and C? How are these smaller Caribbean nations, Central American nations, CONCACAF nations going to realistically have the resources, funds to go out there to Europe and play these games?
It's almost going to have to be like a qualifying event.
Yeah.
That you're not
a preliminary round.
Yeah, you're not going to be able to do the full.
But you know what's going to happen, Kasey?
Plus teams.
My worry for something like this is your wife is like, hey, we'll just do it in the United States. We'll just do regional. We'll do regions and we'll do seeding. And what we'll do is we'll host mini tournaments in the United States. You saw what the World Cup drew in numbers.
Yeah.
Let's just do it in the U.S. That is my fear for this.
But I'm also afraid that the World Cup is the World Cup.
Yeah.
And you went to games and I went to games where I'm hearing people behind me that have no clue what they're watching. They know they needed to go to a tournament, and that's awesome. If they became new fans and they are now watching more and getting more involved, I'm all for it. But then to say, come to this second thing that I don't really know about and give it the same attention that you gave the World Cup, I don't know if that happens to the same level that maybe Europe thinks it could.
Well, these, of course, will be in a different window, a much smaller window. So if we're looking at it now, regardless of what happens to Gianni Infantino, whether he stays or if he goes, who do you see probably saying no to this and not making it happen? Because as we said, I think from the idea,
FIFA would be your first.
Yeah, of course.
They have to sign off on anything. Certainly from a negotiating power standpoint in terms of leverage, it behooves everybody, UEFA, CONCACAF. I've even read rumblings of the Asian Confederation joining forces to be involved in something like this. Negotiating power.
In fact, they actually might need to be just for the quality numbers. So if you can get Korea, Japan, that helps be a more balanced side than when you start bringing in some lower CONCACAF teams.
Let's not pretend there's a greater good happening here. And that, I think, is where people are getting confused because
there's an altruistic motive in football.
All these different fans, all these different fans
will get exposure.
All these different fans were against.
No,
all these different
that's not
fans
going to happen
were
in
against
Nations
Gianni
League because you're
Infantino.
tiered.
And fast forward, they were against this. They were like, you cannot sell the World Cup. You cannot sell off to private equity. Hey, but they might give you commentable. Do it! Do it!
But you'll get Brazil. You'll get Argentina.
So you're not a fan of it because you still think that the intention behind it is not as wholesome as we would
necessary evil getting or replacing Gianni Infantino. But if we, for any reason, assume that Gianni Infantino is out of power, out of that seat, and the next person who comes in will be some saint, we're grossly mistaken. That's and to your point about the fans who come to the games who don't know any better, there are lots of people who don't understand that FIFA is supposed to be a non-profit and that it's not supposed to be governed the way it's being governed. It's not a business.
All right, well, what about the smaller nations then, especially in CONCACAF, Kasey? Do you see them being harmed by this, like even the Curaçaos? No,
because they don't. We used to have a qualifying round in before the first round of qualifying for a World Cup. And that was built so the smaller team could get exposure. But they still, even that smaller team, had to go through a qualifying process to even get to that qualifying round before they even got into a group stage playing against a team that they were never going to beat. So I think besides Europe, where you do have these groups where you'll have England, Croatia, maybe like a Scandinavian country, and then you'll have Liechtenstein, you'll have
Malta.
San Marino, you'll have Malta, that's most other regions. To get into your stage, you have to kind of go through a little bit of a process first. So it doesn't surprise me that the smaller, because it's, why did Australia move from Oceania into Asia?
Well, that's
First of all, because there wasn't a direct qualifier,
Exactly,
but they
Kasey.
were also
Exactly.
beating teams 25-0.
Yeah.
And they were like, okay, this
But
does
there's a
not
legitimate
make
reason
any
because
sense.
you're saying, hey, we're beating teams, but we don't have direct qualification.
Correct. But,
so that makes sense.
So we need to move to get direct qualification and be in a more competitive bracket. Because what would they do? They would end up getting in a playoff against the number 5 team or the
South
number 4
America.
team from South America.
Yeah.
And it just didn't seem fair. So, look, small countries understand. They don't just get to say, hey, let's go play Spain and get beat by 20.
Exactly. Oh.
It just doesn't work that way.
Man, I don't know. I'm a fan of this.
Just very quickly, if this was an actual, as they're proposing it, tournament, Nations League with actual funds that are being funneled down to the second league, B or C, these smaller nations would benefit from the money being trickled down, which is supposed to be what FIFA does anyways.
Yes.
The problem is you can't trace the money. You can't prove the money goes where it's supposed to go.
You can before a
That's
vote.
the problem.
Yeah.
Oh.